is up? If you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Ava, and if you're not, welcome back. So we know from my last video, we talked about Satan part 1, talking about who he was, depictions, names, what he does, how to fight him, things like that. Well, this time we're going to go more into history, where he's at now, the power we might get if we sell our soul to the devils, the strongholds in our lives. And even at the very end, I'm going to reveal an idol that many of us have and we do not know. Stay tuned. Let's get into it. So Satan before he fell. Oftentimes we just know of as Satan, who was once an angel but fell from heaven, but we didn't know his purpose and why God had created him. Go to Ezekiel 28, starting in verse 12. You see that once Ezekiel starts talking about what the Lord told him, we go into the similarities between an earthly king that was obviously corrupt to Satan himself. Check this out. You were the model of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you: ruby, topaz, and emerald, chrysolite, onyx, and jasper, sapphire, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mount of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways, from the day you were created till wickedness was found in you. Obviously, we're going to go more into that later, but let's look at this really quick. Satan was gorgeous, drop dead gorgeous. If God through Ezekiel is describing him as someone who was adorned with every precious stone and who was anointed by God himself, and he literally, in God's words, he was the model of perfection. Satan wasn't just a regular angel. He was something so much more. And reference BibleCompass.com. Check them out, they're pretty good. This next verse is in Ezekiel 28, but the problem is that it's only in certain translations, specifically KJV and NKJV. So kind of with the help of Bible Compass, I had to figure out what KJV is, because for some reason KJV and my brain do not click. Verse 13, Ezekiel 28. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee on the day that thou wast created. It's a short verse, but it means so much more. So first I'm going to break out is the word choice. Check out the workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes. So we know that those are musical instruments. Obviously, we don't have the same thing, but you can just kind of get a glimpse that they were musical instruments that was used in heaven. Those were prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. So we can translate this in two different ways. One, Satan was Lucifer at the time. Lucifer was a literal angel and instrument at the same time. Kind of hard to understand, and no, don't think of some freaky organ thing. This was so much more glorious because God himself had made Lucifer. So obviously it was something that was so beautiful and amazing and probably sounded like something we can never comprehend. We see that his major purpose was to praise God through his music. That being said, we can also see in Ezekiel and any other translation that he was favored by God because he was ordained, he was an anointed guardian cherub, and cherubs are not fat baby angels, okay? They're warriors. If we saw a cherub, we would freak out because we can't even comprehend what they look like now. And finally, the other way to look at this was that he could play music really, really well. It's up to you how you want to apply this. All you need to know and understand is that Lucifer and music went together, okay? And that he was highly favored by God. But then, sadly, if you go to Isaiah 14, verses 12 through 15, you see where Lucifer had thought in his heart that he was going to rise above God, or at least be like him in some sort of way. Now, This is one of the many downfalls of man. Pride. Pride was the downfall of Satan. Now, of course, you can only imagine if God favored Satan so much, it's probably hurt him so bad. And now the next major question is, where does the devil reside right now? Of course, the first answer is obviously hell. But we know that he does roam to and from the earth. We know that from Job. This one I gotta step back. What is hell? I'm gonna give you a broad idea. I'm gonna go in this because there's so much to unpack on hell in a separate video. But I also have a few things I want to share with you. Specifically, one testimony from Wiese I want to share with you. But first, let me dive into it and then I'll share with you another little video clip from there. So hell is the eternal separation from God. Everything we know of from God on earth, it is nothing like that in hell. 2 Thessalonians 1 verse 19 says, "They will be punished with everlasting destruction and shut out from the presence of the Lord and from the majesty of his power." We can't completely understand that because in a way we've never been separated from him like in hell. Maybe we have from sin, but it's comparing this world and hell is unimaginable. I've had people and friends literally right next to me when I tried talking about hell say that hell was like a party. The lake of fire is going to be a party while their friends are at. Let me just tell you now, you are dead wrong. In hell, there's no longer a hope or a chance for salvation. Once you're in hell, you're in hell. I'm going to show you a video about somebody who had gone to hell. Let me know what you think about it in the comments.
And I wondered, how did I get here? Why am I here? I was fully awake and cognizant. I looked up and I saw these two enormous beasts in the cell, these demons, reptilish in appearance, bumps and scales all over the one's body, huge jaw, sunken in eyes, claws about a foot long, and they were pacing in this cell like a vicious, caged animal, and they had the most ferocious demeanor about them. They had an extreme hatred for God. They were blaspheming and cursing God. The other demon picked me up, dug his claws in my chest, and just tore the flesh open. I couldn't believe I was surviving this. How could I be alive through this? I noticed I had a body. Remember Luke 16, he wanted a drop of water to cool his tongue. He had a mouth to speak and so forth. But this body withstands the torments. And I noticed, though, there was no blood or water coming from the wounds. But Leviticus 17:11 says, "The life of the flesh is in the blood." Well, there's no life in hell, so there's no blood. And there's not one drop of water in hell. And these demons have no mercy over you whatsoever. They have an extreme hatred for you. I understood I was down deep in the earth. I descended to get there. I ascended when I left. And I understood there were different levels of torment and degrees of punishment. But there is no tolerable, comfortable level in hell. Any area is far worse than you can imagine. I wanted to talk to a person, but you're kept isolated and alone for all eternity. You never, ever get to be with people. For all eternity, you're kept by yourself.
And here's the reality of it. In Jude 1 verse 7, it says, "In a similar way, Sodom and Gomorrah and the surrounding towns gave themselves up to sexual immorality and perversion. They served as an example of those who suffer the punishment of eternal fire." If you don't know the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, go read it. It's in Genesis. But we know that the whole town was burned and sulfur, and we know that Lot's wife turned into a pillar of salt. We know that it was destruction. The pure power of God coming upon the town and completely destroying it and everyone inside. And this is just an example. So those are my 2 cents on hell. Let's talk about what happens when we give into temptation on purpose. Now, when we openly give ourselves into temptations and we indulge in it often, this opens doors for demons and are ultimately called strongholds once they have a grip on us. An open door means that they can walk right in and mark their territory. Now, what do strongholds mean? Now, the next question is, do you think you have a stronghold? Is there something in your life that is almost choking you? Is there something that you seem like you can't live without? Is there something that you're struggling with day by day? These are all examples of strongholds. And of course, there's also different types. There's such things that are called soul ties, and if you don't know what those are, that's when you have sex before marriage. There's greed, pride, anxiety, anger, addictions, drug or not, self-worship, depression, and so many more. These are just to name a few. Now, people often ask, well, how can I get rid of these? Well, obviously, the only form of deliverance is through Jesus Christ. There's also different types. You can get self-delivered, which is through fasting, prayer, constant prayer, reading the Bible, repenting. And there's also deliverance from other people where they come and pray over you, where leaders of the church come and pray over you to deliver you from these demonic strongholds. And of course, there are thousands of videos on YouTube that talk and go more into depth on how to get delivered from these things. And now moving on, what about people, celebrities or not, who openly accept Satan and, dare I say, sell their souls? Most common and prominent ones you see are either Satanists or celebrities, including secret groups or not. They openly admit to selling their souls and openly admit to having their messages portray some sort of secret and hidden agenda.
I sold my soul to the devil. I know it's a crappy deal.
Like I told y'all earlier, you motherfuckers enter the rapture. And if ain't nobody flying up to heaven right now, obviously all y'all motherfuckers going to hell. Right with me. So, let's get it. Oh, you already here. I'm so sorry. You can't get out. You're stuck. It's over. You heard the song 1,000,000 times and you didn't even know. That's up, but I still...
Sometimes these are hard to determine whether they're being serious or not, so people just usually take it as a joke and let it slide off. But it's a very dangerous game to even joke around with selling your soul. So whether it's real or not, no one should joke like that, especially if you're a Christian. Now there's also speculation and even some controversy if Kanye West is a true convert or not. Now the best way to determine whether someone is a true Christian or not are by the fruits of their spirit. Does Kanye West's recent actions demonstrate the fruits of the Spirit? Use your discernment to figure that out. Now the biggest question is, what is so tempting and so alluring for people to sell their souls to the devil, celebrity or not? Well, to put it blatantly, money, power, and sex. And sometimes, at the very worst, it can even be being at the end of your rope. It can force you to actually sell your soul. I've heard stories of people giving up on life and having no choice but to sell their soul. Either way, these are all temporary things. It's a real thing. Selling your soul is a very real thing, and it's a lot closer to home than you might think. And in fact, you might even be asking, well, this doesn't apply to me. I haven't made a deal with the devil, sold my soul. None of that. Well, I have news for you. You can still open yourself up and be susceptible to the devil. How? Simple. Idolatry. Seeking and pursuing something more than you pursue God can open you up to idolatry. Pursuing a life of pleasure, material things. Mark 8 verse 36 says, "For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul?" These are all temporary. But when we start pursuing these more than God, it opens the doors for so many things. Why do you think that the first commandment is what it is? You shall have no other gods before me. This is a warning for all preteen and teenage Christians, even young adults, pretty much for everyone. But I'm warning you, your phone can be an idol. Now before you come at me saying, whoa, I need my phone to live. Yes, I know. You have to stay in contact with your parents, friends, family, you even use it for school. I get it. But before you keep coming at me, let me tell you a story that happened to me a little bit ago. One day, I was just minding my own business. I think I was talking to God, and I think I was in my kitchen, and I was just kind of looking for a snack because I feel like I'm hungry 24/7. But basically, I was talking to God. I was like, God, how can I get to know you more? I just want to be super close to you. What the heck is distracting me so much? That's when a little tiny voice, almost a whisper, said, why don't you check your screen time? And then look at your screen time versus how much you're pursuing God, reading the Bible, praying, listening to His Word. And of course, stubborn old me was like, no, that's so not true. I read I got up this morning and I read the Bible and I prayed before I went up. And then the second I opened my screen time, it was shocking, to say the least. Now, I'm not saying that phones are bad, but just like all things, they can be used for wrong. We often reach for our phone more than we reach for the Word of God. We often scroll on TikTok more than we start praying to God. We listen to secular music that gives out obvious, even blasphemous messages, yet we like the beat of it instead of listening to the Word of God. Now, I'm not trying to point fingers because I did the same thing too. I know what it's like to be addicted to your phone. It's like you can't even spend a day without it because, people have to contact me. I gotta send streaks. I gotta check my updates. Like, I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that, blah, blah, blah. Our phones, due to entertainment, grab us by the throats. We can spend hours and hours on TikTok. Trust me, I've spent a good chunk of time on Pinterest. It's addictive. But how much more of that time could we be using for something else? I'm not saying to throw your phone away completely, but I am saying to be cautious. Don't let your phone become your idol. You have to be aware of the things that you're looking at, the things that you're listening to. One of the things that I did that has actually helped me a lot was I made a covenant with my eyes, just like Paul did in the Bible. I don't want to look at things anymore that's not good for my soul. If it's not Christian based, and if it's not something that's helping me grow in another skill, then what's the point of it? It's all mindless things. You have to see that. And now, coming to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I hope and I pray you got something out of it and that you learned something new. Whatever you did, please write it in the comments. Let me know. I'd love to respond. But as always, stay tuned for the next video. God bless you. I hope you have a wonderful day. And please do something nice for someone today.